language in the whip report earlier today talking about cow tipping, and I was wondering if you could discuss that, but also I'm concerned that you're trying to prohibit snipe hunting in Georgia. Can you relate your bill to how this will affect snipe hunting?
Yeah, Senator wouldn't have it. Of course, I would never, I know nothing, of course, in my past of any cow tipping, so I couldn't speak to that, although I do know about snipe hunting.
A bill that will increase punishment for cattle thieves and tippers, as well as give agriculture investigators new policing powers, was branded with the Senate's seal of approval today and is now headed to the governor's desk. Good evening and welcome to Lawmakers on day 36 of the Georgia legislative session. I'm Donna Lowry in Atlanta. The youngest person in the Georgia House each day of this session is only a few months old. Coming up, his mother, Representative Lauren Daniel, discusses why she brings baby Zane to work every day. A lot of times, a legislator's work or family experiences lead them to sponsor a bill. Several lawmakers join us in the studio to talk about education and public safety issues. But first, Sarah Callis gives us a rundown of the day under the Gold Dome.
Hi, Donna. Lawmakers are working hard to pass as many bills as possible before the clock runs out on the session. In the Senate, a quick update on the condition of Georgia Labor Commissioner Bruce Thompson. The former state senator revealed recently that he was suffering from stage 4 pancreatic and liver cancer.
He is starting treatment today and will be in the hospital for a couple more days and hopefully home after that. So I just am asking you all to please remember him in your prayers.
The Senate then took up and passed 9 House bills. Some of note, if you are a cattle rustler or enjoy a good cow tipping now and then HB 827 may ruin your day.
This bill provides enhanced penalties for theft of livestock in the state of Georgia. These enhanced penalties will help producers of livestock and animal products from theft of their very livelihood.
The bill also makes it a crime to break into, harass, injure, or kill any caged wild animal.
This bill also provides for penalties for those who commit the offense of trespass, specifically for our zoos. These incidents most times result in an animal attacking these trespassers and the animal having to be put down. These animals cost thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars to obtain, and unfortunately, when these trespasses occur, to replace.
And finally, HB 1033. This bill will help keep utility workers safe by adding increased penalties for those who try to harm them.
It simply increases the criminal penalties for assault or battery on a utilities worker while they're on the job. Increases from a misdemeanor to a high and aggravated misdemeanor on simple battery and assault, and makes it a felony if it's aggravated felony or assault, 3 to 20 years.
The House also took up a slew of bills this morning. A bill that seeks to limit the ability to sue commercial insurance companies directly immediately after trucking accidents passed unanimously.
The piece that we're taking out here is the allowance for attorneys to sue and insure without first providing for service on the motor carrier or the driver. And the argument is simply this, folks. Folks say that if we sue an insurance company, a jury is likely to award a much larger award when they see Allstate or Farm Bureau or one of these large insurance companies versus the motor carrier or the actual insured driver.
Another bill that would create a loan repayment program for mental health workers passed easily. Supporters say it could increase the number of mental health care workers in Georgia.
We have put and passed a bill making mental health and put it on parity with any other kind of health issue. One of the problems that we're having in our state and getting more care to people that have mental health issues is that we just flat don't have the people to take care of them. We don't have enough psychiatrists. We don't have enough psychologists. We don't have enough psychiatric nurse practitioners or social workers. So what this bill does, it's a loan repayment plan.
The House also took up SB 456, which seeks to increase access to caretakers for disabled adults. One representative had a personal connection to the measure.
It's not right for my sister or anyone who is not physically able to have to seek out care while they themselves are undergoing serious treatment. She passed of rheumatoid arthritis, pulmonary hypertension, and Still's disease.
SB 456 passed unanimously. Judge safety was also on the docket for the House. SB 508 would keep information about where judges live private. Lawmakers cited attacks on judges in other states as a reason why the legislation is needed.
Earlier, there was mention that there's nothing that a judge hates worse than getting reversed. There actually is something a judge hates worse than getting reversed, and that's getting violently attacked or killed. Just in the last 2 years, judges in Wisconsin and Maryland were murdered by disgruntled litigants. In Nevada, someone hired a hitman to go after a judge, and then many of you have seen the video of someone jumping across the bench in Nevada to attack a judge and knock down the flag of our country in the course of attacking that judge. And in Georgia, that kind of behavior can't be tolerated.
The bill passed 170 to 1. And Representative Mandisha Thomas announced she will not run for re-election. She plans to challenge U.S. Rep. Lucy McBath for her U.S. House seat this year.
It was a 3-year journey to get here, but I'm only able to be here 3 years because the Lord spoke again and said, your time is over at the General Assembly. I have done what I came here to do. I had multiple purposes for being here.
The House and Senate will return on Wednesday for Day 37. In the meantime, they'll face off for their annual kickball game tomorrow evening. That's all for my Capitol Report. Back to you, Donna.
Thank you, Sarah, for that report. One Georgia lawmaker is not only redefining what it means to be a working mother, but is also changing the image of who's creating laws under the Gold Dome. Each day of the session is Bringing Your Baby to Work Day for Republican Representative Lauren Daniel of Locust Grove. She serves the people of her district with her 5-month-old son, Zane, cuddled next to her in a sling. Earlier today, I spoke to Representative Daniel about her decision to bring him to the Capitol and more.
It's been phenomenal. He has been very well behaved. The speaker likes to say he's better behaved than some of our members, but it is a sacrifice. But I think it also brings light to some of the issues that aren't typically talked about up here in regard to how we take care of our families and what women are capable of. So it's been a good thing.
Yeah, but this was a decision. You knew when you ran that this was a possibility.
So I actually did not know I was pregnant when I ran. I found out afterwards. I ran on a platform. I have 3 older children fighting for Georgia's families and making sure that that's what I was focusing on. And so I think there was a natural inclination. Once I found out I was pregnant, I said, well, I guess I get to prove what I said. So it's been fun. It's been fun.
He's such a good baby. Let's talk about your platform and some of the issues. You're happy that one bill that you were very interested in, the voucher bill, has passed.
Absolutely. So that was 233. We passed it last week, and it's a huge step in the right direction for the state of Georgia. I don't think it's the end, and I know that there's people on both sides, whether you like it or you don't like it. But I think it has been overwhelmingly supported by families and parents that they want more options for their children. And so hopefully this is a step in the right direction to full school choice and universal school choice in the state of Georgia.
Let's talk a little bit about the fact that the Senate will have to look at it. Are you worried?
I'm not worried. The Senate does their thing and we do our thing, and the joke is that we perfect their bills and they perfect ours, and so we'll see. At the end of the day, we'll see what happens.
You have a bill that's moving. Tell us about it.
I do. I have a couple of them. The biggest one that has garnered the most attention, I would say, is the Maternal and Infant Health Commission. It would create a commission in the state of Georgia to focus on the maternal and infant health crises that we're seeing. Very excited about it. It did pass unanimously out of the House, which is an awesome thing up here to have something pass unanimously that big. And it is in the Senate, and hopefully we'll have a hearing later this week. So,
tell us more about why you wanted it.
Yeah, so I think we have a maternal mortality review committee, but what it does is it looks at women that died, and it is limited to that. And so because you're dealing with confidential medical records, it's hamstrung a little bit in terms of getting the information in front of legislators and policymakers and understanding the issue in a full capacity. And I think that's what this bill will do. It will allow us as policymakers to sit down with the women of the state and the experts in the state to say, hey, what policy will make a difference going forward for women and children in the state in this issue, in this arena. So we'll see.
My thanks to Representative Daniel and Zane, who didn't wake up during that interview. We're going to continue talking about education issues with our guests in the studio, Democratic Representative Doreen Carter of Lithonia. She was first elected in 2015 and is on the House Education Committee, along with Small Business Development, Special Rules, and some more committees. Welcome to Lawmakers, as usual. Let's talk about the fact that Representative Daniel talked about the school voucher bill. She was in favor of it. You voted against it.
Right.
Tell us why.
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me and was able to make it this evening and talk about one of my favorite subjects, and that is educating our kids. So when you just take from the surface of parents having a choice on how their kids are educated, no one's going to take that away from a parent. I'm a mom of 3 sons, had to make a lot of different decisions around how they would be educated, where they'd be educated, and each of them were different. But this bill goes outside of what we have traditionally talked about with having choice. We are now authorizing, if it passes, the amended bill passes the Senate, sending funds to not just private school, but various organizations that have not proven that they would do a better job than what our current public schools would do. And there are some fiduciary responsibilities that I'm concerned about within this bill, access to who would really be able to take advantage of this bill, this grant, scholarship, whatever they want to call it, free money for rich people, we think, what that would really do. And so when you pull it back and being on the education committee, I've always hoped that we would really have conversations on what do we really need to do to improve our public schools, which is where the majority of our children go. And every year that I've been elected, and prior to being elected, we've had some legislation that were either taking funds from our education budget or not funding the budget. And so when you do look at all of that, the question is, why do we spend so much energy on doing something that adversely affect our ability to really educate our kids here in Georgia?
Yeah, I asked her about the Senate. What do you think is going to happen?
I've heard mixed. So the House have added some amendments to the Senate bill that we really didn't believe that they were needed. I mean, when you add the teachers' pay raises into this legislation, there aren't new raises. They're codifying the raises they already have. So what does it really do? Maybe it makes some people feel a little bit better about it. I'm hopeful that the Senate likes their version of this bad bill of defunding public education and will send it back to the House.
Okay. All right, we're going to talk about another education issue. You want to bring back retired teachers. You have HB 44, retired teachers to teach in the classroom. Right now, it's tough to do it. They can do it in some instances in rural areas, and mostly rural areas, I think, for some of them.
So yes, so the legislation is law, where a retired teacher who's been out of the system for at least a year can come back into the classroom under this legislation in priority areas. And currently there are 3 priority areas based on the particular area, because each area of the state is different. So what we were aiming to do was to increase the number of priority areas where the particular school districts would be able to recruit additional teachers. So now I think there's less than a couple hundred retired teachers that have come back into the classrooms. So one of the debates was, well, we already have a program where retired teachers can come back, but this one made it a little different because there was an extra incentive that you could keep your retirement, right? It wouldn't fund it, but it would incentivize teachers, and it becomes a workforce issue because we have a lot of unfilled vacancies and teacher vacancies in areas that are high priority. And that's why we thought it was really important. Honestly, my school superintendent from Rockdale County was like, this is something that we think will really help. And the biggest pushback has come because they feel like the retired teachers would double dip.
Right. That's the feeling right now. They're already getting the teacher retirement system money.
Yes.
And they would get more money.
They would go back to the classroom and they will be compensated. They wouldn't be compensated at an extraordinary amount. But the key to this bill, and I think this is where I think it gets lost in the conversation, is not everyone gets to come back. It's specific teachers who are certified in high priority areas.
Such as what, science or children with special needs and things like that?
It really depends on that geographic area. Okay. It would go by the top 3 in those particular areas. And that's what I think is really important. But if we could expand it, then maybe we can get some additional teachers, and maybe some schools within that district may have a higher priority than what the overall district will have.
Okay.
Just give it some choice.
All right. Well, we'll keep an eye on it. All right. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
I appreciate that.
All right.
Well, coming up, 2 members of the Georgia House are in the studio to talk about a writing literacy bill and adding emergency medical services to the list of essential first responders. Our discussion right ahead. Stay with us.
Lawmakers is made possible by Georgia Farm Bureau. With over 80 years of helping everyone understand the importance of agriculture in our state. After all, ag is Georgia's #1 industry. Food and fiber production represents over $74 billion in output of Georgia's strong economy. The Georgia Farm Bureau legislative team works to represent producers across Georgia at the state capitol during the session and year-round. Georgia Farm Bureau, the voice of Georgia farmers.
People put their faith in PBS because they know that it is constantly delivering quality. It covers the whole of the United States. It's a free and independent media.
We go where the viewers are.
What are the conversations that are happening right now?
We feel that civil discourse is a civic responsibility.
What we do is authentic reporting that people can trust.
You give time so you can hear voices on all sides of an issue.
This is the place that people turn to for stories that matter.
And they know that when they walk away, they will have learned something about the world around them.
That's why this makes PBS important for daily life and, in the end, our world.
Thank you for joining us.
Community. Learning, working, playing, celebrating, doing life is always better together. At GPB, we aim to provide you with the tools to be able to do life together well. Our mission to educate, inform, and entertain inspires everything from our wide range of programming to our stimulating radio conversations to our fun in-person events. We've got something for everyone. Visit gpb.org/community to learn more about our upcoming events.
Welcome back to Lawmakers. I'm Donna Lowry. Let's get to more legislation with our next guest. Democratic Representative Deborah Bazemore serves South Fulton. She was first elected to the House in 2016. Among her committee assignments are governmental affairs and small business development. And Republican Representative Beth Camp is from Concord. She chairs the House Committee Intragovernmental Coordination and is on several other committees. Welcome to Lawmakers to both of you. I'm glad to have you here.
Thank you,
so we're going to talk about the fact that educators stress the connection between reading and writing when it comes to literacy. We've heard a focus on literacy in Georgia in the past 2 sessions. And Representative Bazemore, you have a bill that involves a book. We're going to show that would establish a 3-year pilot immersive writing program for eligible public elementary schools. So tell us about that a little bit.
Yes, first of all, thank you, Donna, for having me again. I'm so excited because my granddaughter was part of this project here in the program, and she illustrated this whole book. So I met the gentleman that has the program, Stan Tucker, over at Trilith during a conference that we were attending, and he started to talk about how he helped over 100 children get their books illustrated and published. And so I was excited about it, so I decided not only should it only be 100 kids, but let's afford that opportunity to all the children in Georgia. And so I sponsored this bill, House Bill 1198, to help each and every child if in fact they were interested in doing that. And the schools, put it in the schools, put money in the budget of $2 million each year for 3 years, and to track and see how the program was going. But it's a grant also, so that each school that was interested, then they had to apply for the grant, and they had to kick in 50% of the money also.
And part of it is the connection between writing and reading when it comes to literacy, right?
Most definitely.
And a lot of people think if you teach a child to read that's enough, but being able to write is important.
Yes. The young lady that wrote this book was 11 years old at the time.
Okay.
So from 2nd grade to 5th grade, to be able to get their books published. These are on Amazon. Anybody can go and buy their actual books, and they get the proceeds. Yeah. They get the profits from that. So it's very exciting. Unfortunately, it was just heard in committee, but next year we're going to work on it and get it passed so that every child would be able to take advantage of this program, because it's outstanding.
I'm excited that your granddaughter's involved.
Yes.
And she actually came down to the Capitol a few weeks ago. We're going to show a picture of her. Very excited about the process, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So she understands why this is important?
She definitely does. She's actually on her way to Kennesaw State University, which is exciting. But she started out, she would be in her room by herself or in another room by herself, just drawing all the time, characters, everything, anything. And so when I spoke with Mr. Tucker, and he said he needed an illustrator for this book, I said, my granddaughter, Brooklyn, she knows how to do it. And so he went out on a ledge, but he was very pleased when he saw the finished product. Yeah. So she did the whole book.
I love the title, A Different Kind of Hero. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we'll keep up with your bill. All right. We're going to switch gears a little bit because Representative Camp, you have a bipartisan bill. It's a resolution, actually, that passed overwhelmingly in the House on crossover day. It's an amendment to the Constitution that excess money from certain legal judgments or settlements goes into state appropriations. So explain that to people, because they may see it on the ballot.
Well, I hope they do see it on the ballot. And you're right, it did happen on crossover, but the bill was actually dropped last year. So the resolution would allow any unanticipated funds that come into the state and any settlement dollars. We've had some settlements that have been huge to come into the state, and they have requirements, which the General Assembly has the mechanism to appropriate as stipulated. But sometimes we have money come in like BEAD, broadband, equity, access, and deployment.
I don't know.
Sorry, I pulled that out. I think that's right. But this money's coming in. It's going to be $1.3 billion to our state. That's a lot of money. And having the General Assembly appropriate it, in my opinion, for just an example, they're not going to because it's not law yet, but it would give an opportunity for lawmakers throughout the state to have more of an input in what's going on. And so I feel like it's better, to have the General Assembly do it as the Constitution does stipulate.
Okay, so I remember we had the tobacco settlement, but that was specific, right? But it's the same kind of thing where money comes into the state, and if it's not specified for something, then it goes into the...
Yes.
But, yeah, and you certainly had the appropriations chair support that the day he was happy. All those monies should come to us, he said.
They should, and I'm a rule follower, and the Constitution clearly states that the General Assembly is to appropriate the funds for the state. And so being on Ways and Means and kind of learning a little bit more about that aspect of it, I'm not on appropriations, so I'm glad the appropriations chair found favor with my bill. But most certainly, the money that comes into the state needs to be divided by the General Assembly, in my opinion, and the opinion of many of my colleagues.
Yeah, so people may see it on the ballot as it moves along. So next into the Senate, and we'll see. And then it'll have to be in a language that people understand when they go into that ballot box.
That's correct. Excuse me. And if it passes in the Senate, it requires 2/3, as it did in the House, and then it would go straight to the November ballot.
Okay. Well, let's talk about another bill. You're a former emergency medical technician, and you are a co-sponsor of a bill to designate emergency medical services, including ambulance service, as an essential first response. And it's not some people would be surprised that it's not an essential, it's considered like firefighters and police.
Well, and I was actually surprised to learn it was not an essential service, because I can tell you wholeheartedly, and I think I said this as a parliamentary inquiry when the bill was being presented by Representative Romaine, at 2 o'clock in the morning in the rain, when I was helping get someone out of a car that was injured, I really felt like an essential service at that point. Emergency medical technicians and paramedics really experience a lot of dangerous situations. We're not carrying a firearm. We're going into situations without the equipment that firefighters have. So really, there are a lot of really dangerous situations that happen for emergency medical technicians. And whether it be a mental health crisis, whether it be, just someone who's very injured with body fluids, there are a lot of issues that really come into play. I almost got run over years ago. A motorcycle had an accident. Person had an open fracture on Highway 441 north of Eatonton, Georgia, and there were tractor trailers coming. It was pitch dark, and tractor trailers were coming down the road, and the only thing that was separating us, honestly, from oncoming traffic was one deputy with a flashlight. So there are a lot of dangerous situations. So, and this has been a number of years ago that I worked in that field. So I was very honored. I think I'm second or third signer on that bill, and I was honored to be.
Yeah, so one of the things is, I don't think people who are being served by by them as first responders, by emergency medical services, recognize that they're not essential people. They certainly in the moment, you're essential.
Most definitely, most definitely. And I learned last week that Grady EMS is now providing whole blood to individuals in the field. So you think about that, they're performing that service, which, I mean, obviously you have to have blood to live. They're doing something just really cutting edge to keep people alive so they can make it to the hospital, to have higher medical professionals work on them to save their lives. And then the danger aspect of it. So these are skilled, highly trained people who are putting themselves in harm's way. Definitely essential.
Yeah, so it passed in the House, now on to the Senate, and do you have any idea where things stand at this point on that one?
I do not. I do not. I know the Senate, they're having a lot of committee meetings tomorrow.
A lot tomorrow.
I'm very hopeful that this bill will be heard and will pass out of the Senate. Hopefully goes to the governor's desk.
Yeah, and becomes an essential service.
Definitely.
And it's just a definition at this point. There's not a fiscal note, there's nothing. The resolution is just a recognition of the importance, right?
It is, but it could be substantial in the future, especially, I mean, heaven forbid we have another pandemic or something along those lines. That's where it becomes important. Definitions matter when in times of crisis and regarding grants. So.
Yeah. Yeah, we certainly have learned that in the last few years. Well, we'll keep up on that with that one. Again, the book is on Amazon.
It is.
It's on Amazon, and you can find some other books. Show it to them again. A Different Kind of Hero. And your granddaughter, Brooklyn, should be very, very happy that we showed this. And the author, Jenna Patel.
Patel, yes.
Okay. All right, so we're happy you were both able to be here to talk about your bills.
Thank you.
Counting down. Are you feeling it?
Yes.
You feeling like it's? Are you ready? Yeah, 40 days.
I don't know if I'm ready. I think I need a nap. How about you, Representative Bazemore?
You'll sleep a little bit afterwards. You will. Well, thanks so much for coming on. Well, that does it for Lawmakers today. Lawmakers will attend they are going to attend the hearings tomorrow. So we don't have a show. We return on Wednesday with guests. And they're from the House Creative Arts and Entertainment Committee, so that should be interesting. Have a good night.